Hi guys, welcome to the Heart of David. Today's subject is maturity and being pure. And I think each one of those is associated with one another. They're different, but I think they're associated with one another. I just want to tell you my own experience. Pardon my oven, by the way. I think it will be going through this video, so pardon that. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way. People might call that a pagan holiday and stuff like that, and we shouldn't celebrate this, and Christmas and Halloween and those types of things. I thought about those types of things. I'll get back to that, to the main topic. But I thought about those types of things throughout my journey of both being born again and before I was born again. And, well, I would have to say especially after. And you learn a lot of different things, like the origins of Halloween and Christmas and stuff. And, like with Christmas, what does it go? It goes back to the book of Jeremiah, where they say they cut down a tree, right? And they put it on a stand and they deck it with silver and gold type thing. To tell you the truth, I'm not one of those types that puts so much emphasis on it. I'm not telling you not to, whatever you do it with prayer and thanks and that type of stuff. I'm not telling you guys like what you should and shouldn't do towards that. Thanksgiving. It's a secular holiday. I just had to look it up to make sure. It's a secular holiday, and we have every single day to give thanks. And if you look at it, it's a day where your family comes together, you sit around and you eat turkey or whatever. I don't go to mine anymore. That's because I have a lot of trouble sitting and doing that type of thing, but I still go. I believe it's as long as you give thanks in whatever you do. And like Halloween, for instance, I don't think there's anything wrong with dressing up in a costume and trick-or-treating. It's when you start getting into things like satanic ritual abuse, things that are evil. We can do everything and give thanks through every single day. That's my own look on it. And I've definitely had those feelings of like, should I or shouldn't I? I want to respect God in every way I can. It's not as if those things are still being done in the original capacity. Pardon me, I already have to pace, and then we'll get into this. And I hope you guys are all doing well today, wherever you are. Happy Thanksgiving. I'm in Canada, so my Thanksgiving is before the United States. So, anyways, happy Thanksgiving. I don't think this is an easy topic to discuss. Let's just go to the beginning. Let's start with maturity. I think most people remember, I don't know, maybe it's just, I'm Generation X, okay? I'm like close to the end of Generation X. So I'm in my 40s, mid 40s. And I'm sure it was after me, but maybe it's not like that anymore. But they would always say that, that women or something like 2 years ahead of males in maturity. And I believe it. I don't know if that's the way anymore, but very breathless, guys. For some reason, I think I know why I took an antibiotic without food. It says you can take it without food. I forgot to take it, so I just took it without food. And yeah, it does a number for a while. It doesn't last long, but so that kind of thing stuck with me. And I think today the maturity level of people has gone way down. Why is that? Everything I'm talking about here is biblical. We are living. I heard this say yesterday, and I thought it was a good analogy of what's happening. When Jesus, and you might know who I've been listening to, but it was Watchman River. It doesn't. I don't care if I listen to pre-tribulation people. It's not about that for me. He said, we are living in the times where Jesus left off. Isn't that an awesome way of thinking about it? Where you and I are right now. That's our bridge. Everything he told us would happen. So it's just a continuation, really. Gotta take breaks here. It's hard to do videos when you're abdom. It's the kind of thing it does to you. You start to forget things, a whole lot of stuff. I don't think many people today are mature, and so I'll try to break that down. In my day, and I'll just say in my day and before that time, let's just say from the 1920s till the 1980s or 90s, people went to school, they went to university or college or whatever they did, they went right out of high school and they got a job. You had to be mature pretty quickly. But because of all the stuff, that flashy things, cell phones, smartphones, tablets, apps, platforms, all these things, they're just pushing garbage towards us. Whole societies, when you look at like the youth in Japan and South Korea especially, throughout all of North America, especially the United States, these things, I believe, cause people to be less mature. It can take a long time to come to a point of maturity. And the difference, I think, was back then, say in my dad's time, and my dad's 80 years old, in my grandpa's time, was that you had to mature quickly. Sometimes you're put into circumstances where you have to mature very quickly. What if you lose your parents, you're on your own, all of a sudden, I gotta make money, I gotta go work. You mature quickly. You start realizing that all the other things that you see, all the look at me, like on TV, like on computers and all that type of stuff, you're like, no thanks. When I came to know God, where God drew near to me, is when I started to become mature. And with maturity, I started to become pure. And so I'll try to explain that a little further. Let's look up the definition of maturity and purity. So, food. Give me a proper definition. They're talking about the body being fully developed. You know, they say that adults really, their brains don't stop, you know, are still forming and all that type of stuff. They believe it's all the way up to like 26 now. Okay, maturity meaning in emotional terms. That's what you want. Yes, this is good. Emotional maturity means being honest about your feelings and build trust with those around you because you don't have an agenda. Whoa, that's Healthline. Does that not say a lot? This is like, you know, you can always deal with mature people, right? And what all these platforms and all this propaganda is pushing out are turning people away from maturity. There's a lot of immature people. If you were to listen to this definition, would you not think this would sound like the kingdom of heaven? Being honest about your feelings and building trust with those around you because you don't have an agenda. Personally, I started to become mature. That's awesome that says that. There's quite a difference when you get into emotional versus physical maturity. Physical maturity is just you've grown into being an adult. It's the emotional side, and there's a spiritual side. But I think that's like the same thing. I'm going to take a break in my voice. Not the best today. I'll give you an example of my own life. And I want to say this too in this, because I believe this is all part and parcel of the same thing. This may be one of the hardest things you ever do in your journey with God. If you're in the right place, do you care what other people think about you? Like you try to please people and that type of stuff? I feel, and here's my emotional maturity speaking, that's the way I was. It's not that I was always good to people. People please, sure I did. Did I want people to like me? Yeah. I didn't try to push for it, but it was more like, sure, I cared what people think about me, and a lot of people do. How do you get out of that? And the only way to get out of that is to find out who you are. Emotional maturity means being honest about your feelings and building trust with those around you because you don't have an agenda. For me, like, getting away from that was learning all about God. And understanding, because probably like many of you, I had all throughout my life people who betrayed me, turned their backs on me for no reason when all I did was good to them. And those things have happened lately too. Well, I would say not lately, but maybe 2 years ago and 3 years ago, 2, 3, 4 years ago. And you realize that the only person that you can fall on is God. When you come to that conclusion and you realize that no matter what happens, even if you're family, it's harder within your family to not care about what they think. But even so, you hope that doesn't happen, right? Like, you don't have to be like that with your family, but you're going to have to learn to fall back on God. So my maturity journey was this. I was in a whole heap of trouble physically. I was physically sick and mentally sick. I also didn't know I had autism. I didn't know I had adhesive arachnoiditis. All my pain disorders that were not diagnosed, I was in a lot of trouble. I moved in this place. And before I got those diagnoses and I was looking into the things of God, one day everything changed. I was talking to a pain psychologist. I was at like this really nice pain clinic that actually didn't help me at all, but except for the pain psychologist. And one day, she was very good to me. I started to tell her psychological things that I had suffered, and I felt all of a sudden like I'm opening myself up. And I just felt through God that this was the way of acceptance. There it is. Acceptance. You accept the things that you are, the things that you suffer with, spiritually, emotionally, physically, whatever it is. You have to accept where you are. And then you start to learn about yourself. Can you introspect? Can you be alone by yourself? It was all those things that made me a man. I'm very thankful for it. To become dependent on myself. Not that I don't, it's always good to have people to help you and family and friends and stuff like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'll tell you another problem I faced growing up. This is longer than I thought it would be, and then I'll get into purity. You may when I was growing up in grade 7 and especially grade 8, my school had an especially bad group of people, and I was one of them. I was a good person and everything, but I was doing bad things. There was a lot of bad people, and I was in the midst of them all. I wasn't doing well in school. I did not know I had autism. I didn't know I had bipolar disorder and other associated things with autism. Very tough for me, like attention deficit type stuff. And because I couldn't keep up with other people, not that I wasn't intelligent enough, it was because I couldn't focus on the work. I was starting to develop, like, my compensation was to act out. I became class clown. I would say anything. Like funny things, I tried to be funny. And I did that for a full year or two anyways. And it came out in many other ways too, outside the classroom. Inside, doing drugs, smoking a lot of marijuana and stuff like that. And outside, I was committing crimes. Compensation, looking for a rush. You see, the group of friends and all these things had rubbed off on me. And you know what it's like to be in a group, right? Birds of a feather, as they say. The people I chose to hang around with were not bad people, okay? They weren't bad people. There was a group of bad people, but I didn't hang around those types of people. You know what I mean, like physically violent. we would go out in the woods, and we go to all different places out in the wilderness. We go out, stay till the early morning hours, whatever it was. And in these groups, I'm sure that you know what I'm talking about. I'm glad that stopped. I faced an issue. And what I'm telling you here is emotional maturity. Because many of you may not be able to talk about this, but it's my hope that you can one day. It doesn't mean you have to match what I'm saying. It just means you have to accept things. So, we'd all be in a circle or wherever we'd be doing, and people were talking, whatever we were doing. And people would always say a lot of immature jokes, okay? And I always found that, like the fake laugh type thing, or the fake smile. I always had that fake smile. And I don't know, I'd been through traumas and stuff, so things weren't really funny to me anymore. And I remember specifically not liking that, especially when I was smoking marijuana where I was not myself. It made me quite sick. I never knew why I didn't really stop, but you get my point, right? You start hanging around people, and my main point of this is that you cannot be serious. You're with people who, this is why you have to get away from the world. Because you're with people who aren't really, maybe when they leave, they take life seriously, but things rub off on you. It doesn't seem like anyone can ever be serious and talk about things that are going to be constructive and help and move forward and all that type of stuff. No, it just wasn't like that. And there was obviously a lot of addiction and stuff there too, but you're going to have to, well, that's my hope. I just say these things automatically. Doesn't mean, I'm not saying you have to, but for me, I had to start to accept who I was, the things that I had been through. And I finally come to the point where, and thank the Lord for this, that I don't care. I don't care what you think about me, because at the end of the day, it means nothing to me. Unless you're a good person and you're a brother and sister in Christ. I don't have much respect for people who are out there sowing discord and that type of stuff. You know who those people are, leaving comment sections and stuff like that. Just to do it. Those types of people I do not care about. Although you should pray for those people. But you get my point. Accept who you are and become emotionally intelligent. I tell you, there's no better way to live. I'm not one of those types of people who, when I walk out my door here in an apartment where I sit on the corner for an hour and a half and speak to all the groups, I'm just not one of those people. I'm too uncomfortable anyways, physically. But you get my point. I'm the type of person who wants to talk about things of God. I don't speak to many people about things of God, to tell you the truth. But I'd rather do that type of thing, or talk about things that really matter. That's just me. I don't mean like, I'm talking about people who are just talking about nothing. If they're talking about their cars or holidays and stuff, I don't mean that. I mean like people who are talking about things that ends up being people who don't keep their hands busy or idle, and they just gossip about other people. That's not me, and I'll never be that way. Purity. Let's read something. I'm going to read part of the Beatitudes, or I'll read Matthew 5, because I just passed this. It's one of the reasons he gave me an idea to do this. I'm going to read, don't worry, I'll get to purity. Matthew 5, verse 1 to 11. I spend so much time either in the Old Testament and or studying Paul's epistles and Revelation and stuff like that, and James and Jude and Peter and John, right? And I haven't gone back to the Gospels in a long time, because I've been studying Paul's Gospel. What matters to the Gentiles, right? Matters to everyone at this point, anyways. And but it's nice to go back into this. And to reiterate, in a lot of my videos, I don't say that what Jesus, the Gospels were for the Jews. Jesus came back for his people. I'm not saying what's written in the four Gospels are not for you and I. Of course they are, but that's just a much longer story. So, and that's knowing the difference of Paul's gospel versus the gospel of grace versus the kingdom gospel. I hope you can find what the differences are. So the Beatitudes, and seeing the multitudes, he went up on a mountain, and when he seated his disciples. Sorry, I'm having trouble with my throat today. It's probably because I took that antibiotic. It affects my stomach. And when he was seated, his disciples came to him. Then he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit. We're going to look at what that means. For theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when they revile and persecute you, and say all kinds of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven. Listen to this. For so they persecuted the prophets before you. So you think of like Jeremiah. You know how Jesus said there is no greater prophet than John the Baptist. People don't talk about that much because there's not that much about him. But when I started to read Matthew this morning, I was like, wow, the things that he said. I'm not even close to done what he said yet, but I'm talking about what he said when I think he was baptizing, and then all the brood of vipers came, the Pharisees and the Sadducees. So let's talk about, oh yes, what does it mean? I never understood that, so let's look. I do understand it now, but what does poor in spirit mean biblically? To be poor in spirit means recognizing that everything good in our nature comes from God. Sorry, I don't know if this is the one I read before. That one is right. That's a Catholic one. Can't find it, there's too much here. think I can hear a fly. I'll look at God questions. What does it mean to be spiritually poor? To be poor in spirit is to recognize you utter spiritual bankruptcy before God. It's understanding that you have absolutely nothing of worth to offer to God. I'm not sure I believe that, but it's partially I do. Being poor in spirit is admitting that because of your sin, you are completely destitute spiritually and can do nothing to deliver yourself from your dire situation. Jesus is saying that no matter your status in life, you must recognize your spiritual poverty before you can come to God in faith to receive the salvation he offers. Let's look at a different one. There is, I do believe that partially, but just give me a sec. Poor in spirit. Oh wait, this is a Reddit one. You can put it in the comments section what you think it means. I had the proper saying. Let's just read this person. The poor in spirit, which according to the common exposition signifies the humble of mind and heart. Yet some understand it of such are truly in poverty and want, and who bear their indigent condition with patience and resignation. I'll just say this and then I'll move on. Thus the poor in spirit, the truly humble, will mourn for their transgressions, and whoever is filled with sorrow and confusion for his own sins cannot be just, and behave to others with meekness and clemency. When possessed of these virtues, he then becomes pure and clean of heart. Peace of conscience reigns in the assemblage of virtues, and cannot be expelled the soul by any tribulations, persecutions, or injustices of men. What is this poverty of spirit? But humility and contrition. That's it. The virtue of humility is placed in the first place. This is what I'm talking about. All emotional maturity. It all comes together. The virtue of humility is placed in the first place because it is a parent of every other virtue, as pride is the mother of every vice. Pride deprived our first parents of their original innocence, and nothing but humility can restore us to our former purity. Blessed are those who recognize these things. So I'm going to move on to purity. I'm having a difficult time right now, guys. It's in my abdomen. See, when things happen in my abdomen, like if I take an antibiotic, and thank God I only have like 4 more, but and I needed them. When something touches my stomach, like my food, when it gets to a certain point, I have to take meds with them. I take anti-colic medications, and they're also anti-spasmodic. I have throat dysphonia. I also have what happened to my gallbladder. I also have another abdominal disorder. So when a pill drops into my stomach like that and affects my stomach will squeeze, and then it squeezes, it goes upward, and it chokes my throat. It's very hard to deal with, and it becomes very hard for me to elaborate. I can't even begin to tell you the frustration I feel. Give me a second. And when you come to a certain point of emotional maturity, mixed with, and in my case, in your cases, towards God, there's, like it says, there's no agenda. All you care about are the things of God, good things in life. Like I said, no deceit, no agenda, no lying, no stealing, no... I'm not saying a work, but I'm just saying it's just like a state of being, a state of peace. You know, you don't want to argue with people. You want good for people. You want good in everything, in every situation. You think of other people, you know, like if they need help. You know, like, is it John who says it, or is it James? I believe it's James, right? He says, if you see a brother, and he's, you know, and you say something like whatever, what does it say, like, you know, may God be with you type thing, right? And then go away. How can you really believe in God? You have a good conscience towards God. You have nothing to hide. For me, listen, I just want to go about my day. If I want to, you know, like, I want to be humble in everything I do. Pray for people. It's kind of hard to define. It really is. To have a good conscience towards God and other people. I think you understand what pure means. And the very antithesis of what it means is to, in this journey that we're on, is to be Christ-like. Who was more pure than Jesus Christ? I find that the further I go into this journey, the more I don't want to get into debates and stuff like that. I just want peace. I understand there are times where you have to correct people, right? And it's proper to do so if it's out of a good conscience, not just to be one of those correctors, right? I think you'd call that a Pharisee. But there are certainly times to do that. But so I think that's about it. Having a hard time today. You can tell my voice is going now. Before I go, I'm gonna just look quickly here to see what it means. What does spiritual purity mean in depth? Let's look at this. Okay, I don't know if this one is about God, but let's just listen to it anyways. Purity is not popular. Think about it. When did you last hear that word used in a sentence? This is a rarity today, guys. Unless you work as a jeweler, it probably has been quite a while. And when we do talk about purity, most people only think it pertains to sexuality. A closer look reveals that purity's power affects every part of your life and the lives of others. Purity will also make you happy in your spirit. It's the best way to go. There is no better way. Now and in eternity. What is purity? Just as clean and unblemished. There it is. That's what I wanted to get out. Totally spotless before God. And I wanted to say this. I'm glad I'm reading this. I remember the days where, like you drank alcohol, you said something, or maybe you even stole, whatever it is you did. No longer do we feel those, oh no, moments. We don't have to worry about. We have a good conscience towards God. We're doing everything that we can to be a good human being. And that's purity. We don't have to worry when we come to the judgment seat of Christ that we're clean and pure, without blemish. It's not to say we're not going to sin and God doesn't see those things. He does. Just as clean essentially means not dirty. You could define purity as freedom from contamination. For me, when I realized what sin was, when I was born again, I pushed away sin. I'm not saying works. This is my journey. I pushed away sin because I saw how destructive it was. I didn't engage willingly, and I became pure. Eventually, by getting used to it, right? But this description is not very helpful for picturing what a pure life looks like. Instead, look at it this way. Purity describes who you are and what you do. It applies both to your character and your conduct, especially when you're alone. Yeah, it is about God. So what should be true of you as you pursue purity? I'm going to have to take a break in my voice, guys. Give me a second. I have to reset it. You want to please God. You desire to please God in your life by fearing Him, worshiping Him, obeying Him, cherishing Him, and loving Him. Real purity comes as a result of believing that the Lord Jesus died in your place to ransom you from impurity. I'm going to mention this person saying so. This is called accountable to you. To ransom you from impurity. Pure living increases as you work together with the Holy Spirit to live as a redeemed child of God. Your concern for the truth leads you to demonstrate your integrity with honesty and transparency. As a pure person, you desire a clean and whole life free from corruption. Is that not it? And compromise. Your desire for purity leads you to avoid and resist temptations that would pollute or weaken your character. This is pretty good. Your decisions agree with what you know is appropriate and excellent. You value beauty and modesty and style and appearance. You honor your body and the Lord who redeemed it, demonstrating uprightness and self-control and conduct. Purity. So for me, I will never have sexual relations again unless I'm married. Fighting for purity helps you strive for a blameless reputation. I'm just saying that because that's what the Bible says. Blameless reputation before God and others. So people can't evil speak about you. People can't speak evil on you because it will never turn out well for them. If you keep a line of years of being as spotless as you can, I'm not saying works, I'm talking about a specific thing. People can't speak evil about you, and that's good. In fact, people will come to your defense in many cases. You have a sincere singleness of mind as you honor what is sacred to God and decent in the sight of others. You value peace with others, serving them selflessly, and I'm not saying people pleasing if people really need your help, and sacrificially in love, and respecting them as individuals made in God's image, not as objects to be used for your pleasure. Your purity should not make you proud or lead you to look down on others. Yes. who have made other choices. Listen, guys, I'm going to have to cut this video out, both my jaw now and my stomach. I'm going to put this in the description box, and I want you to read it. I hope you read it. But happy Thanksgiving to those in Canada.